I'm going to be installing these little plate washers and these cup magnets, and these magnets are going to be what is actually going to hold this frame that goes onto this case. It's going to hold this frame and the LED panel in. The LED panel is quite light, so it's a job that these magnets can do fine. I think these things have a 15-pound holding force per magnet, and there'll be 4 of them. So what we have to do is just lay out for these washers. I had to trim the washers down a little bit just so that they wouldn't stick out through the edge of this case. Otherwise they were going to be sticking out a little proud. And then we will put the cup magnet into the inside of the frame. And that should make a nice easy way to assemble and clean and service the light in future years. Unfortunately, my dowel centers, transfer punches, etc. are still in storage, and I have no idea where they are. I didn't mark the box that they're in. So we're just going to do this low-tech way. I need to transfer the location of where those plate washers are going to go onto this frame. It's about as close gets. And that's why I carried over. And this is why I carried over these little marks on the side of the case here, just so I can transfer that mark onto the inside of this frame. From there I'll be able to drill my holes, recess in the cup magnets, and we'll be good to go. Carry over a measurement. These are offset 1/4 of an inch off the inside edge of this case. We have our line corresponding to the inside edge of our case, and that's the center of our cup hole right there. I'm going to use a 3/4 inch Forstner bit to countersink these cup magnets in, and from previous experience I found that it's really quite important to make sure that you do not over recess these, and obviously you don't want them proud. If you want them proud, then it's going to leave a gap that's going to hold this frame off of the case. But if you over recess them, they lose a lot of their holding power naturally. So the best thing to do is just start off by drilling a test hole. And that's perfect actually. So you can see this is how we want it sitting, just flush with the surface. And so what we'll do now is we'll mark on our bit how far that is now. So we're just going to mark on our bit the depth that we're going to go. And that'll keep us from over drilling. There we go. Now using our 3/4 inch Forstner bit, we're going to do the same thing that we did into our frame for the cup magnets, and this time for the plate washers. And the only thing we have to be careful of here is that this is a 5/8 material that we are going to be putting these in. And ideally, if I had thought of this ahead of time, I would have used a 3/4 ply, but that's the way things happen sometimes. So we're just going to offset the holes, and the holes are going to punch through this inside, but that won't matter at all. What's going to be important is that we make sure that our offset is enough that we don't punch through this outside skin. Now this is domestic veneer plywood, which means it has a very thick, relatively very thick veneer on each side of it. And that's going to be giving us enough strength that it shouldn't tear out. But if you're working with an import plywood, you may not be able to do this because import plywoods use a paper thin veneer, and they tear very easily. They'll actually tear inwards just because the parent material that they're glued to is being pulled away. So, but we shouldn't have that problem with these here. And there we go. Perfect. I'm just putting a primer of the Zinsser Bullseye on right now, and the reason I'm doing this is particularly because we're reusing the wood that made up this face frame, and there's still a little bit of remnants of finish within the wood. So instead of trying to sand all that out, we just sanded enough that we put a bit of texture on the surface for that primer to grab onto, and then we put on a barrier coat like this Zinsser primer. And hey, thank you. Someone's a little noisy today. Then we put on this barrier coat like the Zinsser primer, and then we can top coat with a normal latex, and you know, or whatever we want for that matter, and we won't have any compatibility issues that way.